Hi, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. I'm here again with Rob Henderson, and we are here to once again talk about Deadwood. Last episode was uh, we talked about season one and the first two episodes of season two, and now we finished season two. So this is basically season three to the season two, episode three to the end of season two, but really, that's just the whole thing up to the end of season two. Um, what do you think about have we gotten more confirmation for a monogamous pimps hypothesis?
The monogamous pimps hypothesis. Um, well, so I'm thinking about Al. I mean, Al spent a good portion of this season, uh, recovering from the injuries he
Yeah.
incurred in his fight with Sheriff Bullock. But I think each time we see him in any kind of an intimate interaction, it's with the same. I don't even remember the prostitute's name. She's kind of. I think she's in. She's not meant to be an important character. And then Sai, yeah,
I
I
think
think
she might become important. I think she might become important, but yeah, go ahead.
maybe later. But with Sai, like you see him interact this season even less with Joni than he did in season one. And yeah, I don't think you ever see Sai with. Do you see like a Joni replacement for Sai at all in season two? I don't think
No,
so.
I don't think we see a woman. I mean, maybe we just assume Sai is. They don't have to. They don't have the room to show it to us. They have a lot of characters. They have a lot going on.
Yeah. I
The
think so far,
I,
this the evidence suggests in this show that pimps in Deadwood are relatively
do you like
monogamous.
that scene where she's pleasuring Al, and then he's like, did you dye your hair? Like he took an interest in her. That was a very, I think, tender moment as far as Al goes.
That's yeah. That's what
She
a
just nods her head
sign of
like,
his sensitivity and his
yeah.
taking an interest in her. That was sweet. Yeah.
I think,
Because a lot of men don't notice when women change their hairstyle, but Al
yeah,
notices.
this is fair.
Yeah,
He's
he
ranting
was.
on about his life and looking down
Yeah,
on
and looking down while she's performing oral on him. That was nice. I don't know. I think I mean, Al's kind of gotten, I think, softer. Did you see? So I posted something on Twitter about. I think Deadwood is interesting, at least so far. The first two seasons. In that, you may disagree. Like I remember our conversation with when we had Mark. We were discussing the Shield, and I took this sort of position that the Shield, and I think this is true for almost every other anti-hero prestige drama, The Sopranos too, and Mad Men, that like these shows, on the one hand, like they're showing a very charismatic protagonist, but they also like are kind of one step removed, saying like, yeah, he's charismatic and kind of a cool guy, but he's also bad, and like we do not condone what he's doing here. Whereas I think with Deadwood, perhaps
Mm.
because of the era it's set in, maybe because David Milch, the creator, is I think he's like pretty based guy. Um, I think Al Swearingen is like not. I think he like we're to understand that he's an anti-hero and not like a completely he's not like a super noble guy, but we're also meant to like root for him. I argued with you guys that we're not meant to root for Vic Mackey. I think we are kind of meant to root for Al Swearingen in this show. Like we
Yeah.
are on
Yeah.
his side.
Well, I thought there would be an antagonism between him and Bullock, and so far they seem allies. And it really doesn't explain, like, sort of why Bullock is like not like sort of doesn't have more of a moral object. It seems weird. Bullock seems to be a straight shooter, except for like Swearingen, where he like doesn't really have like a moral objection. He'll just like go along with sort of anything. But before we get off the Al's new girlfriend, I just want to say she's a relatively rotund woman. I mean, it's very rare you see a woman that big, but she's very cute, and I think it's like very interesting that this is sort of Al's taste. He wants like a very like a very
Well,
strong
and
woman.
what's also interesting is that Trixie is very
Yeah.
svelte, right? She's a
Yeah.
very slender woman. And
I think
yeah, so
Kevin's fair
it's
to look at. She just doesn't. He doesn't want someone who rides in the
I don't think, yeah, he
Trixie.
doesn't want to be reminded. I think if he saw, he doesn't want, a facsimile. He doesn't want a doppelganger of
Yeah.
Trixie. He wants someone who's, like still, like young. She's clearly younger than Trixie, right? Like the close up
Mm.
shots, when you watch it on HBO Max in HD, Trixie looks like she's getting a little long
Yeah.
in the tooth. She's probably, close to, mid 30s, 40. And this rotund young lady, she's probably like not much older than early 20s at most.
Yeah,
So, there's like a youthful energy to her, and she likes to change her hair color and,
yeah. We never have
keep
seen. We
Sal's
never.
interest.
Yeah, and we never see him have sex with her. We only see him. We only see her pleasuring him,
Oh,
and I
right.
don't. Just because like the only role is like him talking. She's like a sounding board to him, so he's like just talking. Um, and like I guess he can't do that if they're actually having sex. But I don't know if that means they don't have sex or they just don't show us because the whole point is to demonstrate that he doesn't think
Well,
about it.
well,
Because he uses Trixie when you'd have those scenes with Trixie. Like he would just like go at her, and then she would have to like we were getting a message that Al is very virile, so like he hurts her, so she has to like sort of put a like a put a rag like on herself afterwards, and so like it's the
yeah,
same thing. It's like Al is just doing his thing, like he's not like trying to please any woman. He's
yeah.
just always enjoying himself.
Yeah, he may not
Um,
actually like, so he may express his affection through like the act of sex, right? Like he actually cared about Trixie, and so he actually like,
yeah.
consummated that relationship, whereas with this younger prostitute who he doesn't have much of an interest in, like, yeah, using her as a sounding board. And I
And
mean, I read
I
somewhere
think he's
that,
becoming fond of her. I think that's why he noticed her
yeah,
hairstyle. I think he's
I
becoming.
maybe we'll see this relationship develop. But I read that David Milch, the creator of Deadwood, he likes to write monologues. He enjoys the sort of the theatricality of someone just like, like delivering, an uninterrupted, 2 minutes of just an interesting person talking. And I think he uses the blowjob scenes with Al as like a way to get Al to like, give a little bit of exposition about his life and his past and his thoughts. And, I think that's like an interesting, like a story device there. Um, and he also has the head of the Indian in the
Yeah,
box that he carries around, and sometimes he'll talk to it like the skull in Hamlet, just like, like delivering these, talking about his inner, his inner thoughts or what he plans to do next. I think he's like, Al is he probably has like a high verbal IQ. He's a sort of
oh yeah,
a
definitely.
thoughtful guy, right? Interesting guy. A lot to say, a lot to think about. Clearly, a lot on his mind.
Yeah,
Yeah, and also Al's trajectory has been interesting in that, like, I think in the beginning, right, like the earliest scene or one of the first scenes we ever see in season one of him is like physically like attacking Trixie, right? Like puts his boot on her neck, throws her down, bounces her off the walls. And it's kind of hard, I think, to imagine Al doing that today to his employees, to the female employees at the saloon, right? I think he's becoming like a little bit more like sympathetic or soft or something, just like less like the edges are sort of being
mm,
sanded off of him. Whereas I think with other anti-hero shows, they start off sympathetic, right? Like Walter White starts off, or Tony Soprano, and then like as the show goes on, you see them they sort of evolve into more of a monster. And Al
yeah,
seems to be going almost in the opposite direction, where he still retains that edge, and you can tell that he's still like acts in a sort of Machiavellian, self-interested way, but he's like not quite as physically brutal as he was before.
mm,
I don't know. Maybe it was the injury, maybe the fight after Bullock.
yeah.
He's a changed man. Trixie leaving him, maybe. Yeah, something in Al seems a little different this season
Yeah,
after his recovery.
I think that's right. I mean the kidney stones thing. That was
Oh my,
hard to
that
watch.
was
There's
so. Oh yeah,
we
yeah, yeah.
we thought it
Uh-huh.
was what was the scene from what was last the first season that was hard to watch. There was other stuff that with the you have the plague stuff, but that's not. I mean, I didn't find that wasn't nearly as bad. There was something else in the first season that I remember that was really the preacher. I mean, the preacher with the tumor. That was
Yeah,
really tough.
and
But this
Al
was
gives like the mercy, like the euthanasia scene where he kills him off, and yeah, I guess there were some of those. I guess like the doc, some of like when he would, uh, operate on people or whatever. There were some
yeah.
tough scenes, but yeah, by far, I think like Al's the kid, is it the kidney stones? Is that what they were killed?
I
Like
think they
those
were.
were
Yeah, I think that's what.
that
I
was
think so.
horrific.
Yeah,
Yeah, I thought it was an interesting choice to like have that like have the kidney stones, like that symptom or that malady when Al is also recovering. So he just gets into a fight with Sheriff Bullock, right? And they're fighting, and then Al, like it was probably like roughly even. We talked about this last time, right? About like how like Al probably could have killed the sheriff because he had a knife on him and then stopped. But then Al's like battered, bruised. He looks, in a terrible condition, and that's when he has these kidney stones, and like that's the thing that's sort of really like
I
that's a
thought they were
medical
related. I thought
issue.
they were related somehow. I thought there was some kind of relationship between the fight and that. Was it
And
a
the kidney
coincidence?
stone, I thought they were unrelated. Oh, yeah, I mean, it was a strange coincidence then if they are unrelated. But I just thought it was probably a good choice. It was an interesting choice because if he just had the kidney stones, I think it would be hard to like take seriously that he's in pain. But the fact that he physically looks like he's in pain and he has the kidney stones just like amplifies the
Yeah.
feeling of like
And the way
sympathy
they,
you
I mean,
feel
the
for
way they
him.
get it out, the way they get it out with Trixie, I just like squeezing it. And this is how kidney stones pass, right? Have you ever had? I mean, they're common.
I've never.
I've known people who've had. I mean, I don't know. I've known
Yeah,
people who've known people who've had them,
I've
and it's
no.
still you're
Yeah,
just supposed to piss them out. I think that's still the way to get rid of. Still the way to get rid of it. You
yeah, the
just
scene where the doc put like a
yeah.
hook or like a long like needle, essentially like a thick needle through the urethra. Um, he did it like I think twice, and each time was like, like I've heard stories of I think for STD checks. I think for I don't think it's for chlamydia, gonorrhea. Like one of the more common STD checks, the doctor actually puts a Q-tip in your urethra, like
Mm.
a certain distance in. And when I heard that story, this is a few years ago, I, like shuddered.
Yeah.
But to have this, like the needle that the doc had, like I don't know, are these? Oh, you do see him boil his medical instruments, which I found interesting. Like at that point, medical science had advanced enough that they knew that like you're supposed to boil and like disinfect because we had this conversation last time. I
Mm.
wondered like the doc seems unusually sort of competent and effective as a doctor, and I wondered like at that point in the 19th century, like all I whenever I hear stories about like medical practices back then, it was just like total chaos, quackery. No one knew what they were doing, but the doc like he knew to boil the instruments and
Yeah.
yeah, it seems like he's yeah, he helped out, right? Like he was gonna cut into him at one point. He asked him, "Do you want me to cut above or below to like attempt to get the stones out?" And there was like
Yeah.
what do you say, like a 60% chance you're gonna die?
Uh-huh.
Like, yeah, it's awful.
Yeah. I mean, he pees a lot. A lot of scenes are him peeing, before and after the.
Yeah.
He's always talking to people. He's always pissing in a pot. This just doesn't like most like shows are like sanitized. They don't show you like the pain and like the sort of the discomforts, right, of earlier time periods, right.
Mm.
So yeah, they show you see them pissing. They have you're reminded they have chamber pots. You're reminded they don't have toilets. You see what happens to the women as prostitutes. You see the physical sort of damage to them, and the doc is always checking them out. You see a plague, right? You see
Mm.
an infectious disease. It's a very, and you see and, we'll talk about this soon, but the death of the child. I mean, you see that
Oh
is
yeah.
just that was hard. That was difficult. Um,
Yeah. You
you
see
know,
them like even when they're walking through town. I find this interesting. Occasionally, you'll see a close up of their footwear. Well, it's interesting when the women do it because like the men are wearing boots, right? But when the women are walking through, they sometimes the camera will sort of pan in, and you could see they're getting mud all over like the bottoms of their dresses
oh,
or
are
their
they really?
It's just like you can like it's not these aren't paved roads. Like it's just mud and dirt and grime
Uh,
and yeah, it's like they don't yeah, like you said, they don't sanitize or like glamorize the old west, right? Like it looks dirty, it kind of feels dirty, it feels sort of worn in.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it's still glamour. It's still glamorous, and they don't have like large wardrobes. I think they wear. It's weird. I think back to the time and like how formal men dressed, like, but they wear the same clothes every day. So
Mhm.
it seems like I don't know if everyone's always wearing the same clothes, but it's like like Al is always in the same outfit. Looks like Dan is always in the same. So like they don't have like a full wardrobe that they're able to change every day, but they still feel like the obligation to dress nice. Farnham is always in
Yeah.
that goofy, that blue suit, and it's like summer, in the in the. It must be. It looks like it's very hot and it's sunny out, and they're all like wearing these jackets and suits. It's very I guess people were like that back then, right? Is that how people dressed and
Yeah.
even during the summer while being outside?
And it looks like well, it looks like a lot of layers for like,
Yeah,
summertime. And yeah, it looks like very involved, like all the buttons and the like the loops and the buckles and everything. It looks like a lot of effort to get dressed and
yeah.
undressed each day.
Like if you walked around with like
Um,
a T-shirt back then, would they think you were like doing something scandalous? Like, what would they think about that?
all right. I mean, did the t-shirts even exist? Like,
Well, if
just
someone
like a
designed one, if someone cut off their sleeves and walked around, that's someone designed one.
yeah.
Would they find it weird? I'm
It's
sure someone could have. I'm
interesting.
sure someone could have designed one. I'm sure it wasn't a very hard thing to
Yeah.
design.
Yeah, that is interesting. Like yeah, and like even the prostitutes are all wearing dresses, right? Like you never see. Oh no, you see Jane wearing pants. Like
Yeah,
usually she's wearing pants, right? There was an episode, I think it was at the wedding, where Joan gets her to wear like a formal
yeah,
dress. Um, but yeah, she's the only woman you see ever wearing pants, and everything else is like very, gendered. Everything's like sort of gender normed, where yeah, men wear one kind of clothes, like yeah, and then the women are always wearing dresses. Um,
yeah.
yeah, and
Even
like the
even when
dresses
they're
look
like
very
building,
heavy
yeah.
too.
Even when they were like they're building stuff, like when the season one when Bullock and Bill Donovan were uh no Hickok they were built like they don't like get down to their undershirts or anything like that. They were still pretty much in their clothes, leaving to like do hard work. I mean, it's interesting. It's like this idea that like you have to sort of save face by always like wearing like a some kind of like uniform to be out in public, right? That idea just doesn't exist anymore, right? People go out in t-shirts and like sweatpants, and it's like no big deal. And so
Yeah,
this is like very interesting. You're right. Yeah, women, of course, yeah, they don't wear any pants. Even the kids, like the little girl wears dresses, and the boy William would always like sort of just be like a little man's outfit. I
yeah,
thought, so yeah, that was and then yeah, they show the kid, I mean, dying, and it was hard to. I was hoping they wouldn't have him stick around in like a vegetable. I thought that's where they were going. Like I thought that
mm,
would have been like even sadder.
yeah.
But thankfully, between the last two episodes of the season, they let him pass on. So I guess that's
Goes
used
hard.
as
Yeah,
a way to like. It looks like it's going to bring Bullock and Walter White's
Alma.
wife. Uh, what's her
Oh,
name again? No, no,
well, oh no, no. In the okay, okay. Yeah, what is? we should know these names right by now.
Skylar. Yeah,
Skylar. No, no, it's not Skylar. What is her name? Mrs. Bullock. But yeah, what is her actual name here? Uh, so Alma
I,
is his love interest, right?
yeah,
But then yeah, the what? Oh, Martha. Her name's Martha. Oh, that I
yeah. What
wouldn't
a
have.
perfect name for
Yeah.
for the character.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
her name is Martha. Well, okay, so wait, what do you think is going to happen? Because I think that
Oh,
that's
I
setting.
thought
This
I thought
is
him and Martha. I thought him and Martha. Like you see that scene where Bullock says, "I'll give anything for us to continue as we've been." So maybe So it looks like they're trying to work it out. They're trying to stay together.
yeah, I guess he's. I think like he said that in a moment of like
Well, Alma just got married.
pardon. Wait,
Well,
who got?
Alma
Oh,
just got.
Alma. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So they got. Yeah, that's true. But I don't know. It seemed like Alma and Bullock, they were very much like interested in one another. So I think this is just going to complicate things. I think like Bullock said, I want to continue as we've been. He said that in a period of like mourning and sadness, and he could see just like how broken up Martha was too about like her son dying, and so like that's like the wrong time to even broach the possibility of ending
Well,
their
because
relationship.
she wants to leave, right? And he basically gets her to stay. And I think the idea is that they're going to like become a real married couple. I think that's the idea.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I don't know. I thought this was. I mean, I saw that too. We'll see. I think I'm more predicting that yeah, we'll probably see Bullock and Alma. You know, if they don't officially reunite, then they're not fully finished with one another. I
Uh-huh.
don't think. Um, because Alma's not like I don't think Bullock is in love with Martha, right? Like I think that was
No,
just
of course not. Yeah,
yeah, and Alma's not in love, obviously, with Ellsworth, right? Like that's a relationship of convenience, and almost pregnant with Bullock's baby, right?
yeah.
So I don't know.
They don't
I
have the.
find
I mean,
that
they don't have the option to do. I mean, it's like the social norms won't allow them to just each leave their partner. You know, because
yeah.
Bullock's there. Bullock's there for the long run. Seems like Alma's there for the long run too. So this is their community.
They might do a
Yeah.
wife
So
swap. Maybe
they could
Ellsworth
do a
and
life swap.
Martha can,
Ellsworth
you
and
know,
Martha. Can you imagine? That was
yeah.
not the most
Ellsworth's
compatible.
like, man, jackpot. Like, he
Yeah.
was an unmarried, no prospects at the beginning of the show, and now he's,
Uh,
you know,
well,
yeah.
fate rewards. Just being a decent guy, just being
He
the most
was.
honest guy in the
Maybe
cat.
that's the real lesson of Deadwood is
Yeah.
like Ellsworth is the most honorable guy on the show, and yeah, just
You see how
marriage
Trixie
opportunity lands this time.
tells her, you don't have to sleep with him. He won't make you if you don't want to. Like, Ellsworth is such a good guy. He won't do
Uh,
that. He won't take his prerogative as a husband. So this is
Yeah.
why.
Was it unusual back then, I wonder, to reach, because Ellsworth is probably in his 40s, right? Or maybe like late 30s. I don't know. Maybe if we accept the idea that like, like that life in that era ages you fast. But is it like how odd was it to reach age 40 at that in that era and not be married
No,
as a man?
I think he said he'd been married. I
What
think he
had he,
said
what happened to his wife?
he had a daughter and they both died. They died of sickness. He had a
Oh, right.
wife and
Okay. Well, that
daughter.
was probably common back then, of
Uh,
like children dying and spouses and everything. Okay, right. So this would be his second. All right. All right. Okay. Okay. That makes more sense. Um, yeah. And then
so I
yeah,
thought
Alma was married. Martha was married. Yeah, her husband died. Yeah, this is like it's just everything, right? Like everyone has like one family member, like within just
Yeah.
yeah, just
Well, it's
like
weird. I wonder what these other
death is so
people are doing.
common.
Like, what are these other like Doc and like Farnham? Like, they don't seem to have wives. Do they have? They're all in an all male camp. Like, well, I wonder what exactly they are.
We're gonna
What
learn.
stage?
Well, probably not Farnham, but remember last time I predicted we're gonna have a gay male character. Probably not Farnham, right? He seems like a little too kind of like I don't know, just what's the word? I don't know, skeevy or slimy. Like he like I think he's made some remarks too about being interested in women. Doc wouldn't surprise me, right? Like if he, I don't
I
know,
don't think
has
anyone's
Doc
going to be gay. I think being
Merrick?
gay was. I think being gay was unthinkable
I
in
think it
this
won't be
particular
like
show.
I don't think you're gonna see like like a full on like Brokeback Mountain like cowboys making out scene.
Well,
But
no, you know what we're going to get. Do you think Jane and Joni are? Do you think they're developing into something?
oh right, they are having yeah, okay. Yeah, but we're pretty much aware, right, that Joni is gay.
Yeah,
Um Jane is like probably not interested in men. But yeah, I think like Merrick or Doc or one of these, like it's not going to be like overt, but it's more going to be
America.
like you're going to see like a weird thing of like them like making eyes at some like
I don't
handsome
think.
young man or something,
I
and that'll
predict.
be it.
I predict no male homosexuality
No,
for the rest of the show. It was just like
I
the
think
stuff
it's
is
going to be.
largely socially constructed, and I think in the old west, I just don't think men. I just don't think men did this. I just don't think that they thought
I
of
don't think
this.
they acted on it, but I think like there's gonna like it's gonna be one of these things like like the creator later on is going to say, "Oh yeah, this character was gay, and we just didn't," like
Yeah,
with
but I wonder
Gus,
where
right?
these guys are in their life cycle. So like they have no wives and they have no like. Does each of them like is each of them like Bullock like have a wife somewhere that they're going to bring like
Oh,
Merrick and Farnham and
I guess that would be
Doc.
like a good way to introduce new characters, right? Like each scene, you have to have new characters. Like we had this season, who was the sociopath, like the
Wilcott,
killer,
Francis Wilcott.
Wolcott, right? Yeah, like what? Like yeah, so yeah, you have to bring in new characters just to like keep things fresh and interesting. So I'll probably bring their wives in. I mean, what did you make of Wolcott? Like that, like his whole like sort of plot and his trajectory. I don't know. I found it like kind of unsatisfying. Um,
His
we didn't
trajectory. I don't know. Did he have a trajectory?
like just like his presence on the show. Was it interesting or did we? I guess we kind of like we saw Joni deal with it. Like we
Yeah, I
saw,
don't know if he's supposed. I don't know if he's interesting. I think
I
he's
didn't
there
find
for.
him.
He's there to do other things, right? He's there to bring Hurst in. He's
Yeah,
there
right.
to sort of, I guess, destroy Joni's Joni's business
Yeah,
and
he
like
did do
sort of
that
bring it.
effectively.
Uh,
Um, yeah, him as a character, I didn't find interesting at all. Like even when he was murdering these people, like I thought that was, I thought this was, oh, this is like, wow, this guy's like a straight up like serial killer sociopath. And yeah, I guess like in a way he also softens the other characters, right? Like if you compare even Cy Tolliver to Wolcott, right? Like Cy doesn't look so bad.
mm,
Al doesn't look bad anymore, and so yeah, Wolcott did like sort of create that contrast of someone who's actually like a cold blooded, killer.
yeah,
Um,
I like Tolliver. I mean, I like Tolliver. I think all of
he's
Tolliver's
growing
cool.
on me too. Like for season one, I wasn't. Yeah, but I think as time goes on, he's also becoming a more
I
interesting.
think the difference between him and Al, I think what they tried to show us when Al got sick was like these people like are like loyal to him to the end. I mean, like these people who just seem like goons. Like he like he's sort of the center of the world. He's just got like the super charisma. They follow him. If he dies, they're all going to break down. Trixie and Dan and all these guys, and so he just has this magnetic pull. And Tolliver is smart, but he doesn't have that. He just has these flunkies who are sort of afraid of him and sort of in awe of him. Leonard and that guy, that pathetic
Yeah.
guy, I think his name is Connor Stemp or something. The former sheriff. Just these pathetic guys. And Tolliver does okay with himself, but he can't. He does okay for himself, but he cannot like. He doesn't have this loyalty. He doesn't have these guys who are like actual competent and can do something. Send them to Chinatown dressed up as like zombies or whatever they were supposed to be and like take care of something.
Right. Yeah, yeah, there was that scene where Al was in bed recovering and he had like everyone around him, right? Like Trixie and the doc and Dan and all these people just like, hugging him and sort of grasping at him because they wanted him to
Yeah.
recover. And I think they knew if he died, like the whole the whole camp would be in disarray and there would be like
Yeah,
no
and I
sort of
think
central
Joni. I think
figure.
Joni's in love with. I think Joni is in love with Tolliver. I mean, I think that the fact that these women
Oh,
are in love with
interesting.
their pimps, um, and
Yeah.
dependent on them is interesting. But no, but as far as like any kind of men that will like follow Tolliver, no, it's all interest. It's if someone can strike a deal with him, like they'll do it. But nobody's going. Nobody cares about Cy Tolliver. Like nobody really is gonna be there with him when he gets sick.
Yeah, I think Joni might, but the others, yeah, it's hard to believe that. Yeah, he's sort of won the same level of loyalty from his people.
Yeah, I hope they did. I thought that. Yeah, I hope they don't kill him off. That was a pretty surprising.
Oh,
I thought he
right.
was going to kill. I thought he was going to be the other. I thought he was going to kill the preacher. I thought he was just going to like beat him to death or something. I love how offended he is at like this guy coming and like I talk for the Lord now, and like Tolliver just like hates him for it. There was a lot of sort of like in early American history, a lot of like sort of anti-clerical sentiment. And you sort of see that with like guys like Tolliver and some of the like Bullock. Like these guys like don't look like when the preacher like wants to when the reverend wants to he's just annoying them. He's just annoying them when they're burying William. He's like, oh, do you want open casket? Do you want this? Do you want that? And they're just like, what do you want us to read? Like, well, what's your favorite part of the Bible? And they're just like, go away. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
you're just an
Just quick.
annoyance.
We don't care. Yeah.
And then Reverend Smith, it was the same thing. He was just like a nuisance. He would like preach about the Lord, and he was just like sort of a nuisance to everybody. But yeah, I was expecting like Tolliver maybe like go crazy and just beat this guy to death. But then no, the guy stabs him and walks away. And I don't know. Do you
Yeah.
think they're gonna? Do you think they're gonna kill off Tolliver? No, not
I
a chance,
don't.
right?
Well, I mean, what's interesting is like I thought that they were setting up a rivalry between Cy and Al, and I guess initially there was some of that going on, and I thought this season was going to continue like sort of building up animosity, and there's going to be some kind of like big confrontation between these two, right? Because they are like similar in a lot of
Oh, I
ways.
think we're still getting there. I think we're still getting
You
there.
think like it's still
Well,
it's
Hurst is gonna if Tolliver is gonna be with Hurst now because it's
yeah.
he has this potentially has this blackmail over him. And but Hurst has made a deal with Al, and I think what's going to happen is Hurst and is going to have to go into Tolliver's side, and then they're going to have to go against Al. I think that's what's going to happen.
Right. And yeah, Cy did have his what's the other guy's name? He did bring in this other guy into Chinatown, the other Celestial. Forgot this
Yeah.
guy's name, but the guy who could
Well, I think
speak
his name was. I think
English.
his name might have been Lee. I think it was
Lee
Lee.
was his name.
San
Lee.
Francisco cocksucker.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you're right. His name was Lee. Um, and yeah, so he was sort of right, like pitting his guy up against Al's guy against Mr. Wu. Um, so yeah, I guess it's possible. Yeah, this would be a disappointment if this was how it ended, right? Like I think we are maybe we're expecting something, building up toward a confrontation. So probably not going to die. That was like but then why do it, right? Like why? I guess maybe so that we learn something more about this minister. Maybe
Or
he'll come
maybe,
back.
maybe we show what I was just saying, that like when Al was dying, like everyone was around him, and Tolliver's going to be abandoned.
Oh, right.
Maybe
So
they're
you
going to
think you're going to
finish
show
like
him
no all
like
violence.
he's
Yeah,
going to
and
be
they're
in the docks, in the dock under the docks care, but no one's going to be there like to check in on
and
him.
he's going to become more evil while Al became nice because everyone loved him.
Oh, interesting. So size. Okay, no. That's an interesting. So Al became a better person. Sai gets injured and he became a worse person. And yeah, the lesson would be something about like winning the
People love
loyalty of
him.
people and having a support system or something. Envy and those kinds of things. So yeah, that would be an interesting
Yeah, if they wanted to kill him, they would have showed him.
contributor.
They would have showed him dying. You would have ended the season with, I think, him dying. If it's not unclear if he died, always they bring someone back. It's usually
But
not.
then maybe it would have. Yeah, but you don't want to have like one death after another, right? Like the boy's death was pretty grim, and then you end with another death. Uh,
Well, they had
yeah,
Wilcott, another death. Wilcott too.
yeah, but
No
that
one.
was like no one cares
Yeah,
about
nobody.
him.
Nobody
Psy
wants
care,
him to.
people care. Well, people cared about the boy, just because he's a kid. Psy people, I think, feel some attachment to. So having two characters you care about die, whereas Wolcott, that was like a pretty yeah, like when he hangs himself, when he jumps out that window, man, that was like at first I didn't know who it was. I was like, what? Oh yeah,
Oh,
it's
I
Wolcott.
assumed it was him.
Yeah, that was rough. Um, yeah, the scene of him killing all those hookers in the yeah, that was really. And then yeah, the madam, right, like the female pimp who points a gun at him, and she was like, you're gonna give me your profits, right? He just grabs the gun out of her hand and cuts her throat. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, that was rough. Yeah, yeah. Uh, But then after that, Joni got the other prostitutes out of Deadwood, and did that make sense? I mean, were we meant to believe that Wolcott was just going to go on like a hooker killing rampage if these
Yeah, I
hookers
don't know. Maybe
like
they were. Well, they
why
were.
didn't he go over to Al's place and start killing those like why didn't he like if he's really
I
dedicated, if
think
he's
they.
committed to this.
Well, I think they were like witnesses. I mean, I think that's why they were like they would know that like all these hookers were killed, or all their
Oh, because they
coworkers
were
died.
there and they would whatever testify or
They just
condemn
know their coworkers are
Wolcott.
missing, or whatever.
Yeah, that this could create problems for Wolcott, and so then potentially he would kill
Yeah, I
them or
don't
do
think he
something
just
to them.
fights every prostitute he can and kills
Okay, I
like a
didn't know if that
zombie.
was just his. I didn't know if he had that kind of that energy. Presumably there must have been serial killers back then, right? Like this can't just be a modern phenomenon, right? Like surely there were guys back then who were twisted, weird sexual desires who wanted to kill people. So yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like, what else did you make of like the show of other characters? I mean, yeah, anyone else we should focus on?
Oh well, so we talked about last time the black guys, and we thought that they would.
Yeah,
Like I was like, oh, they're never going to show up
Haas,
again. Well, they did come back. Um,
Hostetler and
yeah,
the
Hostetler and
and
the N
Sam,
general.
the
Yeah,
N
we
general, the
can't stand.
NG.
Yeah, the NG. I wish we could say this word. It's not.
I mean,
I don't want
we
this
yeah we
censored.
don't have that pass. Well, I mean, I posted my 23 and me. I'm half Latinx, but I don't
Yeah,
think that gives me the N word pass. And
no,
you're Jordanian, right? Like I don't
yeah,
think you get.
yeah. I don't
I
have
don't
any
think we get
African.
the.
I don't have any African. Not
No,
even
no.
point
I
one.
had 1% on my 23. It was like 1.4%, but I think that's within the margin of error. So I don't even know if that.
Yeah, I
So
would. I mean, I would. It's like the. Yeah, I mean, I wonder if I worry about the internet censors. That's the only reason.
Yeah,
I don't care
yeah.
about this. I don't care about the social norms. I think we have to push back on the social norms. But anyways, we'll just call him the NG
Well, when
for
you and I grew up in like the late '90s, early 2000s, that was the era where it was like a kind of a tongue in cheek debate about if you said the word with an A at the end, it was kind of okay, but if you said it with the E with the hard R, that was the
yeah,
bad one. And now it's like all everything's off the table. But I remember like back then it was like rap lyrics or context
yeah.
and fun and whatever you could say with the A, and now it's. But
So so like at the end, like when Hostetler, so it's first of all, it's a very unwoke thing to have
yeah,
like the incompetence of the black guys like kill the kid, like they're
yeah,
just doing,
yeah.
even if it's on accident, like the fact that they're the issue
Yeah,
there.
that was an interesting like, and then they flee after.
And then they decide that they're going to find the horse, go back, and then like be forgiven. Like I guess is there, and I think that like there, I thought this might set up a thing where like Bullock would like be like it would show you what a just man he was, that he would see you as an accident and not want to punish them or something
That's
like
gonna
that.
be like yeah Bullock, because Bullock is supposed to be like a like a not a good guy, right? Like the like a
It
noble
would take guts
hero.
if Bullock tells them to lynch them. That would be that
That
would
would
be
be a
cool.
change. Like
That would
that would
be
be
cool.
like a character change in Bullock, and he would like that would
Like
that
his
would be like that
honor,
would mark.
like a black guy's like responsible like for the time. Like I think he would have to. I don't know. Like they lynch black people for like not that much. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't take a lot of. It doesn't take a
I
lot.
mean, I mean, the show opened with Bullock lynching a white guy for like
For
seemingly
a
not that
crime, right?
much
You could say he's adjusting for a real crime that he
for a real
purposely committed.
crime. Whereas this
And
case, it was like, I mean, yeah, was this even manslaughter? I don't know how to categorize
it could be
this.
negligent. I mean, it could be negligent homicide. It could be.
Yeah,
It depends. Like you have a fact finding thing.
yeah, but
Uh,
then yeah, I guess they decided like yeah they can't run. Well, if they run, it just like makes their guilt even more apparent. Like if they flee, but then going back, like then it's just like it seems all but guaranteed they're going to be
I would
sentenced in
think
some
so.
way.
So yeah, I wonder if yeah. I mean, this is a hanging thread, so I think they will probably be back uh,
Yeah,
next season. Um,
yeah.
but what they
Well,
do in like
Bullock saves Sam, right? The NG. He saves him from the
yeah
other guys, like from the first
yeah
lynch mob
yeah, he tells them there'll be no lynching of any color.
of any
That guy
color. Yeah.
when William gets kicked by the horse, I thought that guy. Remember that the guy who was hanging out with him, not Tom, but like the other like redneck guy who tried to lynch the NG.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I thought that guy was going to try to do something to the kid because it's Bullock's kid. Because you remember Bullock punched that guy, remember?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I
So I thought
remember.
that kid was going to like do something to William. I thought something bad would happen to William. Like I thought it would be that guy doing it, but that guy actually tried to was just like felt bad about it and tried to save him. And so I thought they were going to show like this is a bad guy. This was the racist guy who tried to lynch NG, and now he's going to like do something to a kid. But then they didn't.
Mhm.
They showed like that guy being like very broken up about the kid being killed, and then like still being I
Being
think he
racist. Oh, yeah,
yeah, he's still racist, but like
yeah,
he's a good guy. I mean, not a good. I don't know
yeah,
if a good guy or not, but he's like he has some good features
yeah,
and
yeah.
cares
He
about
yeah
children.
he shows remorse over what happened to the
Even though
kid.
Bullock like punched him and it's Bullock's kid, he
Yeah.
still like, really likes the kid.
Yeah, right, right. Yeah, there aren't many kids in the camp, and I'm wondering how
Yeah, that's
like
why
that.
Martha wants to be a teacher, right? Yeah, like for who? Like you don't see any
Yeah,
kids.
it
Yeah,
would. I mean, maybe they exist and we just don't see them. This is going to be one of those things where, like, the season 3 premiere is going to be like, yeah, Martha teaching a classroom of kids. It's like, where do these kids come from? And I guess they've always existed. We've just never seen them. But so far, it's just been William and the little girl, the little blonde. Yeah, they didn't use the word squarehead this entire season, but yeah,
yeah.
the little Norwegian girl. Um,
Well,
and we
William
don't
has a
see any
friend
other
who like goes off to he goes off to Oregon or something. He's like leaving somewhere to go with
the
his
other boy.
parents. So there was
Yeah,
one other kid, but you're right. There's no like for the Kemp's children. She said we're gonna have like okay, so like the thoroughfare. How big is the town? Is this thoroughfare and like the Chinatown? Is that like everything, or is there
yeah,
something? And so like, but why wouldn't the children like be like walking around the thoroughfare? I don't know. Like women, like why wouldn't women like go buy stuff? I mean, maybe it's dangerous. Maybe it's dangerous. It's dangerous
yeah.
for women and children.
I like that the
You know,
show kind of depicts there were only a couple of brief scenes with William, but it shows the kind of like the formalities and
Yeah.
like the like the sort of like the difficulties of like basically kids weren't really treated like the way we think of childhood now, right? Where like William a couple of times, like he calls Mr. Bullock, like calls Bullock Mr. Bullock, right? He calls him that, like that addresses him by his title or by his title and last name, and he does this for every adult. And he speaks in like this sort of very formal, proper way. It's like there's still some like childlike qualities to it, but he still speaks um, as he imagines, I think, an adult would speak or tries to speak that way. And then he tells Bullock, "Yeah, like, good morning, sir. I just like I need to go back and chop more wood or whatever." Like his whole day is filled with chores. He's not just like out having fun and playing. Like there are some scenes where he does this, but like clearly he has chores and he's like contributing to the camp and to the family. Um, which I find interesting too. And you don't really see this with the girl though. It's just with William. But I
Yeah.
imagine like like child labor law, like everything, like being a kid back then was probably like it probably was brutal in many ways. And so
Yeah.
it seems like they're they
Well, the
portray
girl
that,
like knit.
yeah,
She's knitting at some point, so she does like I think she does girl activities.
girly things,
Her
yeah,
yeah, her life seems pretty depressing. I mean, she's just in the hotel room with Alma,
yeah,
not doing all that, playing with she has a doll,
mm,
not doing all that much. Yeah, I mean it is. You're right. Why? Yeah, where are the children? Where are the women? And how can we have a for the Keb's children. Maybe there'll be like five of them, right, or something. Yeah, there are really no women who are not prostitutes. There aren't like many. You don't see
mm,
women walking. You don't see women walking around
mm,
either. And maybe that's fine, but like, how do you have the camps? How do you could say we have the camp's children, right? The children have to be somewhere. The women would presumably be there if there are
yeah,
children.
and like yeah, with the women you don't see that. There was that interesting scene where Alma goes to Trixie and discloses her pregnancy,
Yeah,
and then like Trixie's immediate reaction is something like yeah, with the girls we make a tea, which is I guess some kind of like a whatever, like a morning after plan. They cook some kind of herbal tea remedy up, and this gets gets rid of the pregnancy. But yeah, like none of the prostitutes or none of like there's no accidental pregnancies. No one really has kids. No one really, like there's not that many families that we see even, right?
no,
Like all
but
the
this
other
is, I mean, this
characters.
is the old west. This is the old west, though. It was
Yeah.
like that. They would go. They're prospectors. They're out there to. The whole point of the town. The only reason the town exists is because these guys want to go out there real fast.
Get
Get
gold,
rich. That's why
make
there's. That's why
money.
they're. Yeah, that's why there's so much prostitution because it's just a bunch of single men who
Okay.
are living
All
there.
right, right.
So yeah, this was sort of the point of the whole. So it's not mysterious to me why it would be an all male camp. Pretty much, look at the like Chinese too. They're all men and they're just prostitutes are there. There's
Yeah,
other
that's
Chinese
true.
women, and so that's not mysterious to me. But the weird thing is that Martha wants to teach the children of the camp. Like that's weird because like yeah, exactly. Where are they coming from? Like the other part of this is not strange to me at all.
Mm.
Um, the prospecting it's funny the Alma the pregnancy when when she's talking to Doc about like the issue at the beginning of the season. He's like the choice is yours, and she's like, I'm becoming what's he asks or something like, what's your choice or something. She's like, I'm being reconciled to the idea that I do have a choice in this matter. Do you remember this where it's like she could like exercise her reproductive freedom? Like she makes a big announcement of that.
Yeah, that was I guess a little bit unexpected in this show. Um, but generally, yeah, like as I was watching this, it kept occurring to me how, I mean, I was actually pretty surprised how freely, like the white, like Jane was the first one to use the Edgy's full like favored title. Like people were saying this word like no problem. Like I think today it would be difficult
You know what? I
to
looked
do
into
this
this.
kind of show.
I tried to find if people stopped saying the word in TV shows, and I was able to actually find a lot of recent cases in the last few years of people saying the N word. I
Like white
thought like
people though, like white
no,
actors.
white actor, of course, white actors.
Interesting. Okay.
Last white actor to say
So worth Goop. Yeah,
googling.
it seems less common.
I'm sure it's less common, but I remember looking for. I remember seeing it. I can't remember where. Wish I could remember off the top of my head, but I have seen it in things of like the last few years. But it's not completely. It's not completely gone. I mean, people can still
Yeah.
do it in a film.
In like a historical context, or if you're clearly playing a bad guy, maybe. Um, right.
Yeah, but Jane is a good character. But even then, I mean, just for the time, this is a very real show. It can't go woke.
Yeah. No,
This
no,
is why
that
the
was.
movie. This is why I'm so interested to when we finally get to the movie. Um, what are they going to do with all this? Because it's
Yeah, I think they are
2018.
trying to be like faithful to the era. Although I did read an article because like they use the F word like nonstop, and apparently back then like they did like that was one change like the culture where they didn't use this word so much. They also didn't say cocksucker as much as they did.
Well, you
But
say they
these were
did or they
they did
didn't.
not, but they had different ways of expressing like vulgarity and swear words. But the David Milch basically said like they didn't do this because it sounded too hokey. Like back then they did use certain, I guess, turns of phrase and expressions, but to modern ears it would just sound like
No, but I don't
you
like.
know.
So they
And
wait. So
so they
they made cocksucker, even though cocksucker was not something they said back then. Is that
if
what you're
they
saying?
did like my impression was like he's saying like these words maybe they were used or not, but they just not nearly to the extent as we hear in the show. But he wanted to like basically like the F word and cocksucker are used like relentlessly, just
Yeah.
nonstop in the show, and those are just like the sort of placeholder words for the
What
words
would
that
they
they would have
say?
actually used. I don't know. He didn't give any examples in what I read, but
I
it
wish
would
they
have
would
sounded
have. I wish they would have made it
hokier.
historically accurate. Like, why do we? It seems weird to me that they would
Because
say words that we would know.
I think they wanted to strike modern ears as like how it would have sounded back then of like people just like a bunch of like outlaw prospectors and these adventurous men, like they spoke in vulgarities. um but to us it would sound silly, I think, is the
Yeah,
idea. So they speak the way that we imagine, like tough guys today would speak. They would say those kinds of words today, and so they kind of made that change. But I don't know. I guess the swearing it's a little too much. I think where like sometimes there are scenes
yeah.
with
The F word is
Swearingen where
too
he's
much.
like,
Yeah,
yeah, it's like every other word with him, and yeah, I don't know. Like that's like I guess that would be like my one criticism of the show. It's like the show is strong enough without like having to double down on that word to make these guys seem extra hard or interesting or something. Uh,
yeah, and even the ones who are not that hard, like like the doc, like they would just say it just uh
or Jane, like Jane uses it all the time. It's like I
yeah.
don't
Jane
know.
is
It's
sort of a
just
crude, foul mouth, sort of kind of
like a
like gutter kind of
U-Haul
yeah,
lesbian.
earthy. I don't think that one is strange, but yeah, it's like Doc. It's like pretty much, yeah, it is too much.
Mm.
Um, uh, anyways, I'm gonna find this. I'm gonna find a list of white actors who've said the N word in recent years. I just googled that and it's not coming up, but it would be. I'm surprised nobody's made a list, but you never know. You
Well,
never know.
I don't know. Maybe Google's this is
Not
yes, internet suppression.
yeah.
You got to
Well, I
go to
tried maybe I'll ask
go-
ChatGPT and then have it lecture to me about
right.
how I should have
ChatGPT.
asked such questions.
Yeah. Well, I remember reading this interview with I think it was Samuel L. Jackson, with Django Unchained, the Quentin Tarantino movie, where Leonardo DiCaprio had he had some reservations about saying that word so many times in that movie, and Samuel L. Jackson basically like took him aside and was like, "Look, man, we're gonna make this movie. You need to you need to just get over this and start saying this word." And like today, it's just hard for me to imagine like any like famous white movie star like saying the N word that many times in a movie or TV show. Um, I mean, yeah, I guess like it's not really said that often by other like you never see Bullock say it. I don't. Do you even see Swearingen say it? Like you hear you hear them say, "Are we allowed to say the word that they use for the Celestials?" The other, I don't know how
The
Apple
Celestials. What are you
Podcasts.
talking about? So what are we? Celestials? What do you mean the other word they
Well,
use for Celestials?
well, there's
Chinks?
another racial slur. Can we like? Are we allowed? Like, which words are we allowed
I
to
think we could say
say?
chinks. I think the
Are
N
we
word
allowed
is the. I
to?
think the N.
That's
I
the
think the N
that's
word.
where the line is drawn.
I think the AI is gonna come. That's gonna vaporize you for the N word. It's gonna look past chink. It's not gonna. It's not gonna
Okay,
care too much about that.
that's
That's my guess.
that's it's very what very very it's erasure. It's like erasure of yellow people.
No,
Um,
when would Swearingen have to? What context would he have to? Wait, and I think Swearingen does say it. I think
does
it's.
he?
I think there's one scene where it's like, oh, and then it's like, what does the chink have? He was like, he either said, what does the N word have to? What is it? Oh no, it was Jew. He was like, what does the Jew
Oh,
have to do with it? Someone was like, oh,
yeah,
and then the
yeah.
Jews
Well,
out
he
there. It's
makes
like,
a
what?
lot of yeah. He makes a lot of anti-Semitic jokes, right? Where he'll go to Trixie and say like, why aren't you among the circumcised?"
I like how
Um,
Trixie, she says, I got my Jew lessons today, which she calls bookkeeping. Like it's like
bookkeeping.
training for Judaism.
Yeah, like they're good. They're good at that kind of thing, right? Like money or like yeah. Al says these like he'll say like I know your people are talented at this, like anything to do with money. Um, but it's I guess like the racial dynamics are interesting, right? Where like clearly so Saul is more or less accepted, but like like the anti-Semitic remarks are pretty constant around him. But he's like more or less like full, like he has full citizen rights or whatever, like
Yeah, I think
treated
that's
as a
right.
full person.
Yeah.
And then with like Mr. Wu, he's like Al, Al's unafraid to partner with him, and he's like he still has to like make sure he comes in through the back door and like kind of careful about like being seen as too close with him. And then with Hostetler and NG, it's like they're in like a
Yeah.
completely parallel world,
Well, it's
right?
funny. Yeah, I mean, it's funny. Like, yeah, they're like, oh, anti-Semitism. Like, you hear about it, like, you still hear about it today. But it's like, no, it was like in the 19th, even like the 19th century, like Jews were pretty much, oh, they couldn't go to like a country club, like all the country clubs. But like, they were. I mean, they were accepted. The I think Secretary of State for the Confederacy was Jewish. So
Did you
there's
see that there was a big like this was a few years ago where Larry David took one of these ancestry DNA tests, and one of his ancestors was like a like a Confederate general or something, like some kind of like
yeah.
slave owning Confederate general.
Uh,
Like yeah.
wait, this was real Larry David or
Yeah,
episode?
like actually like real like
Okay,
not the character Larry David, like real Larry
yeah,
David. Yeah, he took some DNA test for some TV show, and like this is kind of like a big deal a few years ago. Yeah, I don't know. I wonder, like in America, it seems like anti-Semitism was never like I guess it was probably it seems like accurately portrayed in the show, right? Where it's like you're
yeah.
kind of seen as a little different and a little interesting, but like clearly like there's no there are no like like social barriers to you. I guess maybe in the same way as like the
I think if
German
you
and
like tried
Norwegian
to become
immigrants.
mayor or something, like maybe like
Well,
something like
there
that.
was the interesting scene with the like what were they like the workers, right? Like the Cornish guys. There was the scene where they were showering them, right? Like Wolcott's writing a letter describing the operation that they had. And you see all these like Cornish immigrants, I guess like poor guys from England. And did they have any other, maybe Germany, some other like white immigrants? And yeah, they were treated as animals, right? Like they were kind of like but they weren't, but this wasn't like really a like a racial thing. This is more of just sort of like an immigrant outsider.
Yeah, I
uh,
don't know. I don't know if they're
yeah.
trying to do something like capitalism is bad, kind of big, big business is
Uh,
bad kind of thing. It's like the small shopkeepers are like,
yeah.
Al, and they're trying to like maintain, and then the big guys come in and Hearst, but then Hearst comes in and he's portrayed as like sort of a good guy. I mean, he's horrified by Wilcott. He just wants like so like the capitalists are not like Wilcott sort of seems to represent capitalism. He's like he mentions like, sir, are you familiar with Adam Smith?
Amalgamation and
Yeah,
capital.
yeah. And
Yeah. And
but
Marx.
so I
He
thought
mentions
like
Marx too.
Wilcott is supposed to represent like the psychopath of like capitalism. But then like Hearst comes in and Hearst is like horrified by Wilcott, and Hearst like is so reasonable with Al. He just wants things to be quiet so he can make money.
Yeah.
And so it's sort of that Hearst is a more positive representation. Um, and Al,
Interesting, right.
the politics of this is very interesting because Al is going to be, I'm going to be, after this is over, I'm going to read a book or something on the real Al Swearingen. I want to know like what this story was because this is fascinating. Maybe we'll read about it and maybe we'll talk about that. But yeah, this is showing Al in the show as like a state builder, like just an early, like a guy who does the things that you have to do in order to like form a city, to form a community. Right. And I think that's like sort of it's becoming like more like a political show. It's like a show first of just like individual relationships in a town, but it's like evolving into that. And it looks like we're going straight to that next season because it looks like they're going to be incorporated into Dakota's Yankton. I never heard of Yankton. Like what's the capitals of Dakota are Bismarck. That's North. What's South Dakota? Sioux Falls. Is that the capital
Sioux
of?
Falls, that sounds right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, whatever Yankton is, I don't know if it's still around or like they call it Yankton. It's supposed to be the capital of Dakota's
Right.
territory. I guess.
Yeah.
Let's see what this Let's see
Yeah,
what
there's
this
a
Yank.
Yankton, South Dakota. It's the first
Yeah, it's still
capital.
Yankton is still there. So it must have been
Yeah.
has 15,000 people now. So it's not a very big. I
That
wonder
is
what Deadwood. I wonder what Deadwood has. But it's history. It was the capital of Dakota Territorial Capital. Um,
Deadwood is still
until
around today.
yeah, Deadwood is
Population
around.
1,156.
Yeah, so
Right.
not as big as Yankton. Yeah, so these Dakotas they never really turned into big population centers. But we're going straight to that because they're talking about the elections now. Like they're saying within 6 weeks, like when Silas Adams is looking it over for Al, they're saying elections, as soon as possible, 6 weeks. So like when we come back next season, assuming they go back, they do a summer. First, Alma's gonna have had her baby, and then we're gonna have elections. It's gonna be a city. I mean, it's gonna be like a city that's gonna be within Dakotas, and so we're gonna be in a different political reality. I mean, that's what it's built up to. So it's going to be interesting. They're going to have elections. So Al is not just going to be a
And
saloon
then,
owner and a
yeah, well, were
guy
they
who's
like, yeah, like who's going to be the mayor, right? Because like Farnham has somehow managed to hang on to his, this is like a purely ceremonial title, right? He has no real power. But he was like, "Can I be the mayor?" And I was like, "All right, fine." But he doesn't have any actual control over anything. And now if they're going to have elections and that title actually
I
begins to
assume it'll
mean
be the
something.
same. I like a lot of like democracy elections, like has been like like a guy like Al Swearingen just sort of running things from behind the scenes. So just
Right.
because they had the elections doesn't mean like I think
You
things
don't
are
think that
gonna.
the elected officials will have any real power?
I mean, they'll have some power, but like these like southern states, like you hear about them like for decades ruled under like one family, right? Where like nothing
Yeah.
ever changes. So something like Deadwood, I don't think like it's going to be like, oh, people are going to vote against Al and make like I don't know Joni
Well,
the
that's what I mean.
deputy
Like, I
mayor.
wonder if Al will actually care. Like, once it becomes a matter of like, what, like, will they start to care about things like political legitimacy? Where, like, as long as it's just like a ceremonial title, give it to Farnham, who cares? But then, like, if there's actual serious elections, will Al actually want to be elected? Like, will he and Cy like compete against one another? Will they
Yeah,
run? Like will things start to change where people are actually like striving to like win hearts and minds in the city and become the actual like politically like, and socially like legitimate leader rather
yeah,
than because right now they're just sort of de facto leaders, right? Like there's no there's no sort of official legitimacy granted to them. It's just sort of like implied, and like a lot of it is just kind of like brute force and threats and bluster and confrontation,
yeah,
rather than this sort of aggression channeled through political means.
yeah,
So that'll be interesting to see what happens there too.
yeah.
And yeah, like what happens with like Farnham's a funny character, man. Like the way that guy talks and like his manners, it was like the show just like portrays him as like this, like a silly kind of clown. And like the way he treats Richardson, where Richardson is like the only person who is like sort of beneath him in the
Yeah,
social
yeah.
ladder.
Richards.
Uh,
Oh
and
yeah, I like Richards. Richards is playing to the what is it the elk head, and then he's like
he's got the
keep it.
antlers.
Yeah, it's like
He's
keep
got
at it,
the
you fool. And he's like telling the priest like, do not look to your left, you'll be offended by this
yeah, the
blasphemy.
worship of idolatry or something. Yeah. Farnham's funny, and
He's
like
got
the
to be.
fact that
He's
he
got to be
knows.
Farnham, and it's got to be for Farnham and Bailey Circus. So his name's E.B. Farnham. Doesn't that sound like? Isn't that what it's called? E.B.
You said
Farnham
this
and Bailey.
last time. I don't. I mean, I've never heard
Well, I
any.
don't want to. I don't want to find out because I want to. It might be a surprise in the show. So don't tell me. I don't want to look it up
Oh
because I
well, he
want to.
was. I'll just say he was a real person. I mean, according to
Well,
Wikipedia, this guy
okay,
really existed.
okay. That's all.
That's
That's all I want to know.
interesting.
I want to go back in the end and I want to see who's a real person. Like, why? Why did this become famous enough to become a show? What was so special about Deadwood? We'll find
Yeah,
out. I want to find out. If the Chinese stuff is real. Let me ask you
yeah.
this: there are Chinese coming from the other side of the world to South Dakota. Even if I don't know if they were really in Dakota or whatever, but they came some places in the American West.
Yeah.
But there's no Mexicans. There are no Mexicans, right? There
That
are
is
no.
interesting.
You think Mexicans would be closer, right?
Yeah, I don't like. Is there even like it's kind of surprising to me like that there's a Chinatown at all in any of like South Dakota or like any of the Dakotas. Like I don't know, it just seems like a very obscure, like a town of 1,000 people, and like the modern, like maybe it was bigger, maybe the settlement, like I guess gold might have been an incentive, but like why would immigrants like go there? Like what is the incentive there? I guess they had others, right? Like there was the scene, like I said before, of the Cornish immigrants going there, and like working in the mines or whatever, trying to find gold. But yeah, that's
Chinese are. I mean, Chinese have throughout history amazed people by their sort of work ethic and their sort of
yeah, that's
entrepreneurship.
yeah,
Um,
that's yeah,
it says in the so according to Wikipedia, they went to California. Um,
right. And they
led
had the
to
San
riots.
Francisco cocksucker,
Riots.
right?
Construction began in Omaha, so I think they made it to. Chinese labor was in Omaha, Nebraska, building the railroad. So they made it at least that far east. Uh,
Hmm.
let's see. Can I find anything about Montana or Dakota? I don't know.
Well,
It doesn't
according
strike me.
to, I mean, I don't know how legit this website is, newscenter.tv, but it
Hmm.
says, yeah, Deadwood had a Chinatown, and they positively participated in the greater Deadwood community. They assimilated.
Okay.
They sent their
You
kids to
see, you
school.
see when Wu cut off his ponytail, it's like Wu America.
America.
I guess this is him
Yeah,
becoming an American, right?
that's him
This is like
assimilating, cutting
by
off the
killing
braid,
San
and
Francisco cocksucker. Yeah.
right, killing his fellow Chinese to become an American.
It's so funny
Uh,
when they're like so I guess yeah, Al is like his relationship with Wu is interesting. He seems to he wants to pretend like he doesn't care about their thing. Like he's Al is like I think him being soft is like, he's like, oh, I don't want to go, he doesn't want to go to the boy's funeral, right? That's like a big thing. Everyone's like, you should go, and he's like, no, I have work to do or whatever. But then he like watches like from afar. You see that? And then he pretends like he's not watching when Adams and Dan come back. And
well, there's
then
this scene where he's being, where he's being serviced by the prostitute, his girlfriend or whatever, and he talks about how like his brother's funeral, right? Like who apparently wasn't his brother, right? So Al he was like an orphan, right? He mentions how like his
yeah,
I don't know who were like his whoever this guy is to him, his adoptive father, like beat him because
yeah,
of his brother's death,
yeah. Well,
and
why do you
so
say he wasn't his brother?
because apparently he was taken in, like they were orphans and they were taken into this family,
No, I thought they
and
became
yeah,
orphans. I watched that scene. I think they became orphans after that. His
was it
dad would beat him.
after?
Yeah,
Oh,
and it
well, no, no,
sounded like
didn't
his
Al
dad
say
might have.
something like I should have stayed in the orphanage? I thought he said something like
Well, I mean,
that.
he left the orphanage later. I mean, obviously, but
Okay.
he says like my dad when he would beat me when he's angry or like he needs to get a load off, and I was wondering what that meant. He says something like to get a load off, and I wonder whether that meant he was like raped or it was just
Oh,
like
I think it was just like him, expressing his anger, right? Like just sort of venting, that
no,
kind
he
of
says
thing.
his dad when his dad needed to get a load. Okay, so maybe
Okay,
his
well, at
dad
least
beats him.
so the Deadwood fandom Wikipedia, it said Al had a traumatic childhood. He suffered many
Aren't
beatings
you
from his
afraid of
adoptive
spoilers?
father.
What are you looking stuff up for? The internet's a dangerous place. No, you look it up if you
It's
want, but
fine. No, no, no. It just says, yeah. I mean, this is basically what he said in his monologue. He had a traumatic childhood, suffered beatings from his adoptive father. undoubtedly helping to shape the dangerous killer he was to become. So he was raised in a Chicago orphanage before being taken in by a surrogate family. So
Yeah,
yeah, it
it
was
doesn't
an
say he was ever
adoptive.
raped or anything like that.
I don't want to read much more than that. But like, yeah, apparently, yeah, because right, he was born in England, right? Because he talks about this in season one, right? Like he's a descendant of nobility or something. Somehow he got what like shipped off to the States when he was a boy, raised in an orphanage. Um, yeah, and then adopted. So right, interesting. And it doesn't say anything about like yeah being I think like taking a load off just means like he was an angry guy and wanted to vent and express his rage. Um,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
but yeah, he
Yeah.
was so I think right like so his brother died, and I guess we're supposed to like infer that Al doesn't like funerals because it reminds him of getting
Is
mistreated
that,
by
is
his
that what
surrogate
we're supposed
dad.
to infer? That he doesn't like, that's why he doesn't like funerals? I thought he just doesn't like funerals. I think he just
No,
doesn't
I
care.
think
He doesn't want to show
that's.
any softness. Like he'd go
I
to a
mean, there's
funeral.
probably I don't know. Is that why? Like literally everyone else is at that funeral except him. Like you see Cy Tolliver down there. He gets stabbed.
Mm.
Uh, I don't know. I think Al. We're meant to like Al is supposed to be portrayed as like the most complex and interesting character, and so he has this offside to him. But he's also he was a victim of abuse as a kid, so he's I don't know. Like they have these like a lot of the like the anti-hero scenes have this like literally every show is like this where you have like like Tony telling Dr. Melfi how his dad would take the belt to him. The belt was my old man's like favorite child development tool. And Don Draper talked about Logan Roy in Succession, right? He talks about
Mm.
his uncle like beating him with a whip, right? There's the scene of him coming out of the pool, and there's the scars on his back. So this is like a common thing of like shows can't just like show like a dark protagonist without him having some kind of like a backstory like this.
Is that
So
right? Let me see. So there's
Walter might be the only. Yeah, you don't really learn much about Walter as a kid, but
yeah. I
most of
think
the time.
Walter's supposed to. I think Walter's supposed to represent his entire world as like middle class respectability. So I don't think you would see that in Walter White. And then yeah, and then you didn't watch Better Call Saul, but yeah, Jimmy McGill's his background is not, his dad was like sort of a naive like sort of fool, and this is sort of,
Okay,
yeah, this is sort of like
interesting.
the Breaking Bad as the universe. This is what I talked about with you and other people. It's like it's a very sort of conservative worldview where human nature is more
Oh, right.
self.
Nurture versus nature. So it's more of a nature versus as
Yeah, but
opposed to
the abuse stuff is consistent with nature too, because they have a hard, families who are just like crazy, and they become crazy too, right? It's
Oh,
not
right.
that's not
If you take that position,
yeah.
that's right. That's true. Um, yeah, with and Vic Mackey and the Shield, we don't learn much about his upbringing either. But yeah, I mean, in this case, I mean, it also fits the times, right? Like, I don't know, is it
Yeah, who
like
would who didn't beat their kid? Yeah, who didn't
yeah,
beat their kid?
you never see Bullock beat William, but Bullock is supposed to be an honorable guy or whatever, and he's that's I guess it would probably be that's interesting. Have we ever actually seen a show, like even if it was set in the past, where like you would see like a dad taking the belt to the kid or something like these, you can show characters doing some pretty ugly things, but like child abuse may be like one of those things like characters can't really do on TV.
Mm.
Unless they're meant to be like overtly evil, but I can't really think of
It was
any
what about,
examples of
remember
it.
A Christmas Story?
Yeah, I haven't seen it in a long time. But was
You
that?
remember when the kid says that I heard this word from this other kid, and then they're on the phone, and then the kid gets beaten by his parent?
Oh, all right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's. I mean, it's kind of an old. Well, it's not super old, but it's kind of an older
Homer
movie.
Simpson, yeah,
Oh,
strangling
Homer Simpson would
strangling
regularly
Bart.
choke out Bark. That's a good point. Yeah. I mean,
We
Family
get rid of
Guy
this.
makes like weird kind of like child molestation jokes with Chris. So,
Yeah,
and actually
cartoons.
Stewie too.
Yeah, cartoons do that. Yeah,
Well,
cartoons do
cartoons are
that.
allowed to do that though, right?
But
It's
you know what? It would
cartoons.
be
So.
interesting to show, like, so I don't know, like I've heard that, like, like child molestation was like something that was like completely normal. I don't know if this was true. I think there was like I think this might be in Foucault. I've heard somebody talk about Foucault. I've never read Foucault, but I think that my understanding of what Foucault argues, which is probably not worth much, is that like it was actually like sexuality was like invented at some point, and like you could like use kids for sexual gratification like earlier in history, and
I
nobody thought of
mean,
it as like nobody thought much of it. I don't know if this is
like,
true, and I don't know if this is actually what Foucault said, but like if this is true, then it would be interesting if like some show tried to like portray that. But of course, yeah, none ever would.
no, well, yeah, probably not. I mean, yeah, Foucault himself, like famously, he actually did this. Like he would like, yeah, sexually, whatever, assault these kids, like little boys. So yeah, but yeah, if it was, I mean, if it was true, like
Yeah,
yeah, they could
maybe
never do
We should read
this.
Foucault, and we should read Foucault and talk about it. He wrote a book called The History of Sexuality, and
Yeah,
I and let me see here. Okay, all right, yeah.
the most
So
cited. I mean, yeah, he's the most cited academic of all time. You know that, right? He has more
I
citations, like by far, than any other academic. Um, yeah,
I'm
most
not.
cited in the humanities, and I think like even in the social sciences up until recently.
Oh,
Foucault.
I'm not surprised.
So, yeah, the French intellectual who raped kids and died of AIDS.
Uh,
Um,
I'm yeah, I'm sad. Yeah, we only have one. I'm sad we have one season left, so we still don't know whether we're gonna get a real series ending because we don't know if they knew that the show was over. Like this ending is this season two ending. Like if this ended the series, that would be highly disappointing because nothing that important happened. Like Tolliver got stabbed, and we don't know if he lived or not. But like Al Bullock, like they're becoming a city. So it's like I
yeah,
wonder if season three is going to have like an actual satisfying. I don't know if we don't know if they were like planning to end it, right? So we don't know if they'll have
yeah.
anything like a satisfying ending. But
I
maybe
think
that's
it's
what they.
fine. I mean, they have the movie, right? Like, I wouldn't have. I don't think I would have agreed to even start watching the show if I didn't know. Like, if they didn't have like some kind of like sense of the story ending, right, with this movie. Like, if they hadn't made the movie, I don't think I would have watched it because I think it's terrible, right? When you have these great shows, and then like the plug gets pulled because production costs or they're not getting the audience numbers that they wanted or something. Like it's just I don't know. There are good shows that this has happened to,
Yeah,
and
still
so
worth
yeah, this
watching though.
is like.
You can still enjoy them. I don't never start
I like
watching
to
them.
have like the full sort of like where's this going? How's it like what's like the whole like the whole whatever the narrative story. But yeah, with season three, yeah, I don't know. Like maybe, yeah, that would be interesting if like there were rumors or something of like they wrote an ending just in case this was the end. But maybe the ending wasn't especially satisfying because if they
Yeah.
did write an ending, why make a movie, right? Like my guess is like season three and the ending probably isn't. They don't have that sense of finality,
Mm-hmm.
and so because yeah, they made the movie like I don't know, 10 plus years later, right? Like the movie came out in 2018 and this season is like 2006 or something. So, that'll be interesting. Also, like I'm curious to compare like how the movie feels, the
Yeah,
characters, the
that's gonna be
development
interesting.
compared to
They're gonna have
2006 because
Hostetler come back and become the star of the show. Hostetler is gonna push for racial reckoning in Deadwood.
because like yeah, the in terms of like the culture like I don't know if there's been that many like rapid culture change like 2006 compared to 2018 that's like
Yeah,
1959 compared to 1970, right? Like
yeah,
like in terms of like the shift in the culture and attitudes around like gender and race and everything, or at least like what's permissible publicly to say even if the attitudes themselves underlying haven't changed much. So
yeah. I think the 59 to 70 is bigger, but you're right. It's comparable. Probably, it's in the same universe as that. And I think 2020. I think 2020 is different from 2018.
yeah,
So
oh
you go
yeah,
from
yeah, like
2006 to
post.
2020, and now might actually be not as bad as 2020. It might be 2020 was a
I
silly
think we're
year.
slowly taking a step back from the madness of 2020, but it's still kind of.
Yeah,
I mean, you did you see the like the movies that they nominated for the Oscars? Like they actually nominated movies that people actually watched this year. They're not all like a bunch of woke, like obscure art house, like politically correct films. So I think there is like this. There's like a
yeah.
slow shift towards like returning to a sense of
Okay.
like,
Yeah.
you
Human
know.
nature. I mean, human nature is our greatest ally as the anti-woke. I mean, that's not, there's not, that's not the conservative movement that stops
The
liberalism.
human nature move. Yeah.
It's-
Well, it's in a lot. Yeah. Well, I guess this is sort of one of like your wheelhouse, right? Like in many ways, like conservatives shoot themselves in the foot, and it's only because they happen to be on the side of human nature that sometimes
yeah.
they get some
I think,
W's.
yeah.
Um,
It's like you can't like, it's like these people are
they
like,
win by
oh, like,
accident.
yeah, you like yeah, if like your entire worldview is false, you can be much smarter and much more competent and much more powerful. And like liberals, if you watch liberals like analyze art, they're not happy. I mean, you see like they show like women crying and men not crying, and like there's too much like traditional sort of storytelling and ideas of race and gender. Like whenever you see a black character in a movie, it's funny, they're always like talking like, oh child, it's always like, it's never like, it's all the black women in movies are
We
always
need
like
more of
that.
those impressions.
It
Yeah. Well, not anymore, right? Like now it's like
depends.
yeah, I
I
think
just saw Puss in Boots. Have you ever seen that? It's like a kids movie. It's like a kids animation movie about this cat,
yeah.
like the Spanish gentleman, and it has a black character like this.
Oh,
Um,
really? So well, the caricatures are like that surprises me that like cartoons and kids movies you can do those like caricatures of like black attitude and voice and stuff, but that like I'm thinking more of like like the Black Panther sequel or any movie. Um, they have to like go very much in the opposite direction of like resisting any kind of stereotype whatsoever, where like you can't really have like a black villain, right? Like they usually have to, or if they are, it's like in the name of like some kind of like a higher purpose or a good like an honorable goal or something. So although
yeah,
even that is shifting, right? Like well, there was that interesting Andrew Sullivan piece about like the return of the evil gays
yeah. Let me
in White
do
Lotus.
let's do a podcast at some point. I'm going to write an article about how diversity ideology killed art. Like I think that I need to write that at some point, and
Sure.
then
Yeah.
maybe we can talk about it at some point, because I have
Yeah.
ideas of sort of what happened here, and that'll give us a good basis for a conversation. But
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
now, I think
Let's do it.
I'm going to go off and I'm going to start watching season 3, and we'll be back to discuss it before long.
All right. Sounds good, Richard.